So Cerema, you have the floor.
Okay, thank you, Peter. So I have prepared some slides concerning our activities with observers. So I will share my screen. So I think you can see my screen. So my presentation is about French observers in Polder2C, and in particular French observers that are partners from Cerema in different projects. So I'm going to describe them in the next slides. So here you can see the 4 observers that I have selected. Okay, coming from the south along the Mediterranean Sea, you have the Salins. Salins is a French company, or can be said as an international company working in salt production in Spain and in Africa, for example. And then you have the city of Grenoble in the Alps mountains with problems of risk. That is the city that is very well known in France concerning hydraulic risk. Then you have two observers in the 2C's area. First, there is in French the community d'agglomération des Deux Baies en Montreuillois. So it's very complex to say even in French. And so that is a new set of cities that work together along the sea. And then there is another observer that is a syndicat mixed Bay of Somme that is well known because it's a national area. You can see the logo with birds, so it's well known as for environment. So there are these 4 French observers in Polder2C. So I'm going to start with Salins. So it's a particular observer because it's a private company, but they have responsibility on coastal engineering. So they maintain 16 kilometers, so it's pretty long for a private company. 16 kilometers of coast along the Mediterranean Sea in a well-known area that is named Camargue, that is a natural area in south of France with, for example, many birds. So what we can say at the beginning is that this coast was controlled by hard structures in the past, especially in the 1970s, where French engineers have built many coastal structures along the coast. So the coast at the beginning was controlled by dikes. So in this picture, you can maybe see the remainings of a dike and groins, and the groins are still there. Unfortunately, this coast is in erosion. The main cause is that the Rhône River had changed its bed in the 19th century, and now you have no inputs from sand in this area. So you observe a slight erosion, but continuous erosion. So today the regulation has changed, and hard structures are forbidden in this area. So we cannot construct any new dike in this area. So, and we could say also that nature-based solutions are encouraged by local authorities. So the issue for the company is how to maintain the coast without hard structures. So there is a proposal of realignment. You can see here the red line. And the issue and the objective is to get larger and more stable beaches and dunes, because we have observed that small beaches cannot assure stable volumes of sand, and we have to encourage to have wider beaches. That is why we propose to go inland, and the question is how to do it, and what will be the results at the end. So that is the first issue for this coast. I show you here some pictures where you see the structures. First of all, you have the groins. The question will be, could these groins be effective in the future? Should be lengthened inland if there is a retreat. And you can see in the middle picture about the remainings of the dike, the old dike. And people in this area even ignore the existence of this dike since it is hidden by sand now. And you can see also the dune at the left side. So that is the first issue for this company. The second issue is a dike. They have built in the last decades a dike. The name is Quenin. After they have built this dike, the beach has disappeared. So it was expected. We have known in this area that everywhere we build dikes, the beaches have disappeared. And even with this dike, there are frequent breaches, and the frequency is around 1 year and 5 years. So it's very frequent. And the question for the company is what are the solutions to maintain this dike? Should they install wave attenuator? Should they heighten the crest or strengthen the rear side of the dike? We think about changing the slope, adding vegetation, adding a lime cover layer. So that is a big issue for this company, because they spend much money each year in the maintenance of the dike. So the issue for them is an economic issue. What are the solutions in order to save money in the maintenance? So it's a question of millions or 10 millions of euros per year, just for this dike. So I'm showing here the work that is done each year. So they have installed last year rocks in the rear side of the dike. So that was recommended by local authorities. But as you see just in the picture below, even with these rocks, you can have breaches, and almost each year you can have breaches and damages, as you see below. So the solutions that Cerema is preparing for this company is to test vegetation. So in this area we cannot propose grass. So we are looking with experts about specific species that can grow up in this area. And there is a question about how should we combine different kinds of species, and could they grow up quickly in order to prevent to go up, not to, and can they suffer breaches. And so we test, there is a preparation of a test in a specific part of the dike. And that is encouraged by authorities. And if it works, they will replace this vegetation, they will replace the rocks by vegetation. So concerning the global strategy around this dike, we have proposed a figure with we have used to use with a joint probability of overtopping, and in red you have the impact that is a critical impact for overtopping. As you see, we have in dashed lines the proposals. First vegetations, the critical overtopping is higher, and we have also in blue the probability of the event, and with heightening we have the probability that is going to the left, and with wave damping the probability is lower concerning wave heights. And with this kind of chart, we can analyze what would be the main option for the French company. So that is an analysis that we are going to do in the next months for this company. Concerning Salins, we also have an interest about digital twin. We have a data elevation with LIDAR. What is interesting and specific is that we have at the same time the data for the onshore area and also offshore area, so we can analyze simultaneously what happens on the beach and also on the dike. You can see on the right side the move of the sandbars, or not exactly the move, but we can have the moves, but also on different cross sections the profile with sandbars. And what is also interesting is that we have the dike, and we have even identified one cross section with a bridge, and so that is very interesting data that we can use in order to see what happens in this very sensitive dike. So it's very special because we can have very frequent breaches. And that is the last point for Salins, is the question of solid deposit from the main river in this area. That is Rhône. As I have said, in 18th century there was another mouth of the Rhône, and then it has moved on the east, to the east. So now the problem is that the Rhône is not bringing solid deposit to the area of Salins. And the question is now, what could be do at the mouth of the river? And we see what Japanese have done, and Dutch as well, about the solid deposit and in the mouth of main rivers. And we must analyze the asymmetry of solid deposit. We would like to promote more deposit in the western part of the mouth, And we are going to see if there is some specific works that could be done in order to bring more deposits on the west part. So that was the first issue for the first observers. Now I'm going to detail what is done in the north in CA2BM, as we say. So that is an area near Bay of Oti, just in the north of Bay of Somme. So Bay of Oti is like Bay of Somme natural area. What is specific is we have the meanders of the river named Oti, and it threatens the right bank of the dunes. You can see the picture on the right side. And the problem is not an attack by waves, but an attack by the river itself on the dune. And frequently you have these meanders that approach the dunes and erodes the dunes. And you can even have trees falling in the river and in the sea. So what is important is that the dunes is the first line, first coastal defense for the area, for the hinterland, and this hinterland lies mainly below the mean sea level. So that means that these dunes are very, very important for the safety of this area. You can see a picture. As I have said before, and you have seen, it occurred in 2011, and it has also occurred in 2018 or 19. So each 7 years, you can have this attack from the river to the dune. So what we have done in another Interact project in 2C's Interact project, we have tried to install wave attenuators of not only against wave, but also system controlling the meanders, and it's made of sand nets. So what is interesting with sand nets is that this environmental impact is very low because the installation lasts just between 20 and 40 minutes. So it's very quick. So there is no major impact on environment. And in combination with this demonstration, we have made numerical modeling and observation. And here you can see on the left, on the right side, observations. So the observations have shown that these nets have an impact on the meander of the river and good control of this meander. And you can see it with photogrammetry, but also with bathymetry.
Sorry to disturb you, but you have 5 minutes left, including maybe 1 or 2 questions. So
okay, I'm going to be very quick.
Thank you.
So I'm showing very quickly what we have done with these sand nets and with the assessment of the drag coefficient with test and in Ifremer, and also with numerical modeling. And at the end, we have shown that these nets can lead to deposits around 60 centimeters with a width of 60 meters. And the relation with dikes is the following one, is that you have the yellow line with the dunes, but since these dunes suffer so much erosion, there is a decision that has been taken to build a second line protection by dikes. So in blue line, you have the project of construction of a new dike. But it would be just a second line just behind the dune. And concerning quickly the two last observers, GAM in Grenoble, the question is how can we build behind a dike? So in France, we have a regulation, and the regulation is that we must determine a safety width. This safety width is assessed is 100 times the reference height, and this reference height is usually the flood event with a frequency of pattern frequency of 100 years. And in this safety width, you should not build anything. But it's impossible for some cities to respect this regulation, especially in Grenoble, where the city is just between dikes and mountains, and there is no way to develop themselves without building in this safety width. So the question is vulnerability behind dikes. So with French experts, some levels of vulnerability have been determined from level 1 to level 4 concerning the properties of the damages on the buildings, and there is some types of buildings that have been also determined. And combining all these tables and with numerical modeling of the floods, we can determine the vulnerability maps behind dikes related to buildings. You can see this figure here. And now the last examples, very quickly, is Bay of Somme. So you have a system of an embankment. It's a complex system with different dikes and different lines of protections. And here you can see in particular the area between the two bays, Bay of Somme and Bay of Oti, and they are protected by dikes in each side, in Bay of Somme and Bay of Oti. And the question for Cerema is to develop a risk assessment at a regional scale, because we have the problem in France that all the risk is assessed at a local level, and we don't have any idea and homogeneous idea, common idea about the risk at the regional level. So we plan to develop models for large areas at the regional scale that can be very quick. So we try to see what is available in literature, in state of the art, in order to be able to assess the risk for very, very large areas, like the 2C's region, for example. Okay, it's finished as I expect. I'm on time.
You did a perfect job, Philippe. It was me who was running over his time in the beginning. Although it's 10 o'clock, I do would like to ask the people here whether there are some questions, but the maximum will be 2. So anyone? Peter.
Yes, Philippe, thank you. I think you are doing some amazing and very interesting projects. So I really liked your presentation. Just, well, I have many questions, but just one about this Quinain Digue. Why is it there in the first place? Because we know that dikes are more prone to erosion, but why is the dike there? And why not just also a natural solution?
You mentioned Salins du Midi in the south of France.
Yes, in the Camargue, yes. In
Camargue. I think that the French company has decided to build this dike and to maintain it because of the activities because they don't want to lose land, because each land is useful for them for salt. If they lose surface areas, they lose volumes of salt. So if they can maintain this area, for them it's an economic interest, because areas means volumes of salt.
Okay, so the area is for the production of salt.
Yes, the area is for production of salt. But what I can say is that I think that this dike is, I think it's an old one at the, so they have not built it, they just maintain this dike.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, one more question for Cerema or Philippe in particular.
Yeah, maybe Philippe, I follow the words of Peter Rouwens. I know we have a, let's say, ring of coastal engineers, which include coastal engineers from the UK, the Netherlands, Belgium, Denmark, Poland, Germany, and sometimes Sweden. Would it be of interest? Because I think especially I like also the area in the south, in the Camargue, but that's a bit far away from it. But would it be interested to, let's say, host or let's visit with those coastal engineers, especially the area of Baie de Somme and the other area, which the Deux Baies and something I can't pronounce in France? Because I really think it's very interesting if we can have a look over there, especially with coastal engineers, and especially in the direction of coast, sandy dunes and estuaries.
Yes, we are aware of this group of engineers, the Kring group.
Okay.
And I know that there are no French people at all.
No, that we really miss the French, you know. You don't believe it, but we really miss the French. So maybe could be a good invitation. I know for sure they meet this today in Hamburg, but maybe sometime in a few years it would be a possibility, because I really think some of the solutions you work out over there are very interesting, not only for the French locals, but also for our European partners.
Yes, I think we can organize ourselves to participate in Kring, because we receive the news from the Kring, because we are in the mailing list, but we are not active at all.
No, but I know the Kring has a secret committee, and I know a colleague of Faye, Ian Hodge, is part of the secret committee. So maybe Faye, you could sign in Ian about this.
Okay, Ludolf, I suggest you and Philippe and secret meetings, you continue this talk during the break,